Hey, you guys, we're back. We're back. It's Tuesday and we're here. So let's talk. It's been a few weeks, you guys. Just a couple of little things happened for me. Just like I got married, there's just little things like that. But I'm super happy to be back. Merry woman. Hi, Allie. Good to see you. Glad you're here with us tonight. Yeah, so it's been a good little respite from our normal schedule, but man, I'm super happy to be Mrs. Beverly Holloway Shuey. My husband's name is Ben Shuey, so I'm Beverly Holloway Shuey. Excited to be here, but professionally, I'll still be Beverly Holloway. But it's been a great few weeks for us to have some time. So thanks for that, Grace, in letting us have a little bit of time to gel and enjoy a few weeks. But we're back. I'm excited to be back. And I'm especially excited because you guys, we have like an incredible guest tonight, like cool, amazing, accomplished, talented, multi-talented. And so I really am excited for you guys to get to hear from him and to talk to him. If any of you saw the movie Journey to Bethlehem last year, that was released theatrically last year and is now available, we'll talk to him a little bit more about that. Journey to Bethlehem. He was the director, producer, did a lot of the music. And if you have any questions you can think of for the director side of him or even the music producer side of him, certainly feel free to ask those in our comments. Hi, you guys. Hi, Valerie and Derek and Lane. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here from Woodstock, Georgia. So I have a lot I want to cover with Adam Anders, who is our very special guest. Like I said, the director of Journey to Bethlehem. If any of you knew and watched the show Perfect Harmony, I did. I really liked that show. I thought it was a great cast and a wonderful premise and had a lot of fun with it. He was an executive producer on that show and Monarch, which is great Trace Adkins show. So just incredibly talented and experienced, but also an amazing heart. And so let's bring Adam in because we have lots we can talk about with him.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you? Congratulations. I had no idea. Where was my invite?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, come on.
We got married in a small little saloon that had never had a wedding in it. The building was built in like 1902 and they'd never had a wedding in it. And a friend of mine owns it. And so it's this full-on saloon. And so we built a cross and put it in the corner and got married in a saloon. So
there you go. I love it. Well, congratulations.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. So, Adam, I want to tell you, I'm a big, big fan of your work. I just love what you do. And the combination of music and filmmaking, and you're kind of involved in all of it, which is wonderful. So tell me, yeah, you're very tired.
Yeah, I'm there all the time.
So tell me where it started for you, just a little bit of background so people can get to know you a little better.
Well, I'm from Sweden, and I was dragged all over the world with my singing minister parents. They were in the music ministry and in missions and went all over the world and kind of were the Swedish Partridge family. So I grew up singing and playing and that's where I got my musical genes from. Both my parents were Royal Academy of Music grads.
Wow!
So they're very accomplished.
So
that music part's in the genes. And
I love it.
So that kind of evolved and we started singing and playing as the kids, and then we had our own band and I got a record deal in Nashville, and I was bass was my instrument. So then I studied bass, and then I moved to Nashville when I was young. And then next thing I knew, I was on tour with Stephen Curtis Chapman and doing world tours and Shania Twain, all this crazy stuff, and doing sessions. And yeah, it just one thing led to, to another, and I was directing movies. There was nothing in between.
Wow.
Just
You
bass playing and then
you
movies.
you're like,
So it's a
"Huh,
long.
I'd like." Yeah,
There's a more to unpack there, I think.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, "I'd like a new challenge." I know, I'll direct a big budget movie over in Israel about, the first Christmas.
Yeah. No, there was obviously a lot in between, but storytelling. I always loved telling stories, and
Right.
even in music, it was first songwriting, and then I wanted to tell more of the stories, and then started writing musicals. I produced a show called Glee, which really opened doors for me
Yeah,
in my own stories. That was not my story, but I produced it, and obviously, it was very successful. And that's
right.
success begets success, I guess. And then people are like,
Mhm.
"Hey, what do you have?" And then I got to tell my own stories, and yeah, and I started writing screenplays, started selling those, and then was frustrated creatively with directors, and then I'm directing this myself, and then here I am. So
Mhm.
just constantly pushing forward, but it's
That's
it's pretty
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, now what made you feel like Journey to Bethlehem was the story you needed to direct yourself? Because obviously you've been involved in a lot of things, so why was
Mhm.
it that one
Yeah,
was the
I wish I
one?
knew it was the one I couldn't let go of. I think
Mm.
every creative person gets a lot of ideas, and we all think they're amazing, and some come to fruition and some don't, and you let go of those that don't, you move on, right? And I had the idea for Journey to Bethlehem 17 years ago.
Oh my
Before I
gosh.
knew how to make movies, before I knew anything, I was a songwriter producer living in New York City. And I had this idea because I was in Iowa visiting my in-laws. It was snowing and very Christmassy weather, and there was
Yeah,
no musical to watch, and especially no musical that told the story of why we celebrate Christmas. So I was like, well, why hasn't anyone
yes.
done that? It just lends itself to being a musical and told through song. And so I sat down and wrote a 10-page treatment that Christmas of what then became Journey to Bethlehem. But I didn't know I was going to go to film school for 17 years before I could make it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what happened.
yeah.
I had this dream, and it was just this idea that took on many different forms. Other people writing it and selling it and
Mm.
buying it back from studios because I didn't like the script that was written, and just went through all these different evolutions. And I just couldn't let go of it. And it was like one of those
Mhm.
things like that was put on my heart, and I knew I had to make it someday. And then it was COVID, where I had for the first of
Mm.
my life months to do nothing, and I needed that quiet to just sit and go, you know what? Let me write it. Let me sit
Mhm.
down and kind of do this. And what came out of that was the movie you saw. And I decided this time I'm going to direct it myself. This is my baby, and I want to see it through
Yeah.
to the end. And took the leap, and didn't know if I was going to enjoy directing or be good at it. But it turns out that I absolutely loved it, and the movie was very well received. So here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the music, the larger scale production, all the choreography. I and the story just so lends itself to that, and is worthy of that. And um, just some, from a casting side of things, some just amazing performances that I
Mhm.
just thought were so beautiful. So,
Yep.
how was that process for you? I know, so Alan Powell is a good friend,
Mhm.
and I know he produced this with you, and he and Steve Barnett. With Monarch produced it with you. And so I heard a little bit, I heard about the project when you guys were just in the beginnings, and he described this, and I'm thinking, I don't know how you do that. How you take the story. And at the time I was working on The Chosen, and I was kind of like, I don't know how you make The Chosen a musical. You know what I mean? So
You have to be a
it
little
was,
crazy, I think.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But the more I worked with Alan and Steve and understood, we did a week away and understood kind of the the way you can take these stories and put them to music, then it made more and more sense. Then he
Mhm.
started telling me a little about the casting process for you guys. So what was that like for you? What was the most difficult character to cast?
Mary, absolutely, because
Okay.
I knew if I didn't get Mary right, I was dead. I at this point, I'd made enough movies and TV shows as a producer
Mhm.
to know if you get the casting wrong, you know this better than anybody, there's no recovering.
Mhm.
And I truly believe that 80% of directing is casting. And if I
Mhm.
get the casting right, then pretty much you should be able to make a good movie if the script is not garbage.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was definitely the case here, and it got a little crazy because we hadn't. I saw hundreds of Marys, and they just weren't right.
I bet.
Um, and it was kind of we were a couple of weeks from starting rehearsals, and I didn't have Mary, which means I didn't have anybody. So there was a lot of pressure to cast,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
pressure, as you know, you've seen this before, pressure from studios to cast who I know is wrong.
Right.
And that's
Oh.
where you kind of have to drill, like really dig your heels in as a director and go, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. Fire me." You know, it's like
Yeah. Yep.
I know we need somebody, but I haven't seen the person yet. And it's also this thing like when you see it, when you've written the script too, and I've
Mhm.
had something in my head for a very long time. It's hard to put in words what that is, and I think that's this as a casting director that when you don't cast somebody, it's not that they weren't good. It's that they just
Absolutely.
weren't what the vision I had, and that's hard to
Mhm.
kind of convey in words, and you just have to see people and then find it. And it was I was actually I couldn't sleep one night. We were in Madrid. We actually shot in Spain. Actually, closest thing I could find to Israel that looks like Israel but wasn't
Oh,
Israel.
that's right. You were in Spain.
Yeah,
That's
there was.
right.
We had actually scouted Israel and we're going to shoot there, but it just got too dangerous. But
Yeah.
so we went across the Mediterranean. To Spain, which is an amazing place to shoot. But so it's 3 in the morning, Madrid. I can't sleep, and I'm looking at LA casting videos coming in. I'm like, and then I see this girl who had the little Mary thing on, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting because not many, actually, believe it or not many people put the scarf on like you would kind of think.
Mm.
Oh, Mary, look, it was just kind of.
Mhm.
So she does, and she puts this on. Oh, well, that's interesting. That grabbed me. So I'm like, okay, let me see what she does. And I watched it, and I watched it again and again and again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I found her. She's amazing,
Wow.
and she was so unbelievably um, pure and innocent, yet she had a strength,
Mm.
which is what I was looking for. Because Mary had to be a strong, strong person to me to do
Yeah.
what she did and to be entrusted with that incredible task, the greatest task any person, man or woman, has ever been entrusted with. And
Right.
so I needed that strength, yet that innocence,
Mhm.
and she had
Right.
it. So I emailed Sony and Alan and everybody like in the middle of the night from Madrid. I'm think I found her. I want to cast her. Like no callback.
Wow.
And the craziest thing they
Wow.
said yes, because they were so desperate. So I think it was kind of like had it been any sooner, they would be like, nah, let's see some more. But there was
Right.
like there was no has great, let's go. 'Cause she was obviously very good. Uh,
Right.
and yeah, she was just phenomenal as Mary. I couldn't ask for more. And then the pieces started falling together, and we immediately did a chem, test with different Joseph
Mhm.
lined up like 6 that I thought could be good, but I had to know who Mary was first. And then
Right.
Milo Manna was the first one I saw, and I just wrote on my iPad, "He's Joseph," like immediately. Um,
Yeah.
then it came together. But yeah,
Such a unique thought for him, not a role that you would have expected him to be cast in, but I love that when it's an opportunity to see an actor, because his biggest thing had been Descendants, right?
zombies.
In
Hmm.
Oh, Zombies, that's what it
Zombies.
was,
Yeah.
sorry.
Hmm.
Different Disney dead people
Disney.
show.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the Descendants. I guess most of them are dead now.
Um, but, obviously a much campier comedy, over the top kind of thing, and here you're asking him to play
Hmm.
Joseph,
Hmm.
um, in what one of the things I love that you accomplished with Journey to Bethlehem was a story that was big and epic, and you had all these big what did he just write? Different dead people. Thanks, Diego, for, picking up my little gems that
One more
I
time.
that I drop.
Mhm.
But one of the things I love that you did was you were able to create these epic scenes, this beautiful, full town, full choreography, scenarios, but yet it always felt grounded in reality.
Mhm.
It never felt like we were doing like the fantastical version um, of the nativity or the
Mhm.
Christmas story. There was always a groundedness to it,
Mhm.
and I would attribute that to your direction with very skilled actors, with very capable actors. So I commend you for that, because it could have gone very campy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it very easily, and I'm guessing you guys probably had conversations about that, like making sure you didn't bump into that territory. How did you do both, accomplish both? Do a full scale musical with choreography and yet keep the story intimate and small?
No, I think obviously that was the trick to it, right? Is
Right.
if it went campy, then when it needs to be serious, it's hard to take it seriously. Um,
Right.
and it's a very important story to me, a sacred story. So I never wanted to
Right.
cross that line. At the same time, it's
Right.
a breaking a song musical, right? So there's a tension there. How
Mhm.
do you bridge that? So for me, it was everything. Everything had to start from a place of authenticity, and then I
Mhm.
would just heighten that just enough to justify
Mhm.
breaking into pop music. Because the
Yeah.
other side of that is if you're too grounded, like Chosen, you can't
Mhm.
break into a pop song. It would look ridiculous.
No.
But if it's too
Exactly.
camp, you're ruined it as well. So I had to find that exact balance to where it would work. That's costumes, it's production design, it's the
Mhm.
actors, it's the music. Everything has to work. It's an alchemy. And
Mhm.
we did a rehearsal. On the first thing we shot was Mary's Getting Married, the opening number
Mm.
in
Yeah.
in Nazareth, and huge set
Wow.
piece. Most people we had, we just started. I'm like, just go for it. Let's do it. But we did a camera test on the Friday. We started shooting Monday, and I wanted the weekend in case everything was horribly off and wrong. And I remember when we rolled cameras for the first time. I saw the costumes. I saw my actors, my three sisters. I saw everything on camera coming together, and I just stood up like screamed because I'm like, we got it. We got it right. And I just like hugged every department head and everybody because I knew this works. It just all came
Yeah.
together the way it should,
Yeah.
which was a huge relief because you don't know, have I made the wrong choices for the last 3 months?
Right.
Because it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of choices, and it's every day it's
Yeah.
hundreds of choices, and you gotta just trust that you're making the right choices and that the instincts are right to find that perfect balance. And so thank you for saying that. I'm very proud of that part of
Mhm.
it, and you're the first one to bring that up. And all my
Oh, well, it stood out to me, so I loved that, and that is not an easy task, especially because you talk about making the right choices, but with a creative endeavor, there is no absolute right, as far as, like, there is no black and white right choice. Just like you said, the studio was saying, "Hey, put this person in," if they've got a big following or they're on a
Mhm,
big show, or,
mhm.
and you're thinking, "No, that's
You'll
not
be
the
greenlit if you
right
take this
choice."
person. It's the
Yeah.
wrong person.
Right,
All in
right.
there.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's
well,
right
it's
with
subjective,
regards,
right? To some
yeah,
degree,
like
everything.
your gut,
Mhm,
you're right,
mhm,
your that gut, that, like,
mhm.
okay. And how much, I mean, you're a man of faith, and how much did that um kind of guide you or align you as you went through this process? Because it can be, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? The studios are looking at it in a much different
Mhm.
aspect. And how did you balance what you felt like was sort of your vision, which I guess you could say is part of the vision that God gave you for the
Absolutely.
story?
No,
How did you
100%.
balance that?
Well, I started every day, literally on my knees,
Mm.
praying, because it was to me, it was God's story. He gave me this vision. I wanted to just be a faithful, hit with my hands and my ears and my eyes, and just be faithful to
Yes.
that vision in any way that I could. And it was kind of like, every day I kind of had to pray for my ego to be put to the side because we all
Mhm.
creatives have egos, and I think I'm
Mhm.
right about everything, and I
Yep.
had good partners there, and um, I wanted to protect the vision that I was given, be strong, but I wanted to know what to fight for. And it was always that's the key
Mm.
when you're on set. People coming at you. You have the studio heads there, and they want things to see things, and you have to on the spot know what to fight for and what to just
Mm.
let go of. And so it was
Yeah.
really that, just praying for wisdom every day to know what to fight for. Um,
Yeah.
and what was important, what to let go of, because in every day I had to let go of things. Even just we never accomplished what we set out every day on a single day. There's
Yeah.
no overtime allowed in Spain, and if anything went wrong, I would have to just start cutting shots. So I had to kind of transform myself to the editing room and go, what can I live without? Like,
Wow.
give me wisdom to know what
Yeah.
stuff I can live without. And that's instinct, and it's, I think some divine guidance that I was given to do that. But yeah, I just pray every day, like, it's your movie. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna try to mess it up. That's pretty much my approach. All the way to the finish line. It's just, it's not my movie, it's not my story. And I felt very fortunate to be there. I felt like I'd found my calling. I'm in my
Mm.
40s, and I've done a lot of things in my career. Even Diego, who's on here, we talked about it the other day. There's really nothing I haven't done in the entertainment industry. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, and but this, of all those things, when we rolled cameras on set, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and that was
Yeah.
a really, really amazing feeling.
We talk a lot about that concept because similarly, I got started not knowing that casting was going to be my thing, but
Mm,
just doing all kinds of things, and then one by one, certain other things fell away, and the
mhm,
casting was the constant, and it's
mm,
where I felt the most fulfilled, the most connection of all my talents or
yep,
knowledge or whatever, and it just feels right. And so I can relate to you like, oh, okay, this feels right. This is a
mm,
good mix of everything you've brought to the table for
yep.
sure.
Mm.
It's
It was the first
journey.
time in my life, sorry, where like you just said, where I felt like all of the talents I have, the skill set I have, all of them were being utilized for the first time in my life. I always felt a little unfulfilled creatively, and I'm not a malcontent at all. And
Mhm,
I've had amazing success in my career, like, pinch me, like I could never have dreamt it up. But
right.
I still was like,
Yeah.
isn't that, what is it? What is it that's nagging at me? And finally, when I directed this movie, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the thing I've been prepared for my entire career. All the
Mhm.
things I've done, the different people I've worked with, these huge superstars, all the scary situations. I mean, all of this came together and prepared me for this moment.
Yeah. And I can imagine that all of those accomplishments, uh, although they weren't in the directing chair, allowed the studio and the executives to have confidence in your ability to direct it, right? No, I doubt they would have given the movie to you to direct if it was your very first thing. It took all of that journey to get you to
Mhm.
the place where then it was okay. He knows what he's doing. He's been in it a long time.
That's right. I think you see, obviously, the normal route is to do a movie for a couple $100,000, your first movie, and build your way up to the big budget theatrical release and
Right.
all that as you've proven yourself. On the flip side, you see certain people getting their first movie with a big budget theatrical if they have other accomplishments, whether it's an actor. Sean
Right.
Penn's first movie wasn't a student film, but he
Right.
proved something by that point. John Krasinski, did Quiet Place.
Mhm.
He was an actor, but yeah, so there's this. They knew. Look, I think probably the thing that sealed it was when I produced The Prom with Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman.
Mm,
I think producing a movie with stars of that level, that big a budget film,
right.
again, not my story, but I was brought in, and that's just maybe a story for another day. But um, really, I think that was a thing that made everyone comfortable. Like, okay, you can definitely handle this if you can handle Meryl,
Mhm.
Nicole, and Ryan Murphy, which is the whole other thing. But
That's funny.
yeah,
So we have a lot of actors who join us on Tuesdays and a lot of kind of multi hyphenates like you who are sometimes trying to produce their own content and make their own path. But on the acting side of it, so when you said, okay, we were searching for Mary and I just wasn't seeing it, I love that you shared that a lot of really talented actors didn't get the role,
mm,
not because they weren't talented, right? It
mhm.
just is the intangible part of casting. Um,
It's a needle in a haystack. It really
yeah.
is, and I think actors need to go. It's a brutal process. As a producer, I've sat in so many casting sessions, and I feel sorry
Mhm.
for every single person that comes in there. So I was very sympathetic to the whole thing, and um, I've just seen it for so long, and knowing as a creative what rejection feels like. But
Mhm.
I think you can't look at it as rejection. You just look at it as an opportunity to learn and to
Amen.
grow. And every casting you go into is just an opportunity to get more experience. So you're going to be more and
Mhm.
more comfortable every single time. Don't even worry about if you get it. Just go
Right,
do it. And then
right.
I would say take a swing, do something that stands out. And the thing
Yeah.
that I've always found in casting is most people will play it safe in their casting. I don't know if you agree, but it's just
Mhm.
like blah 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 blah. And then somebody does something really different. I'm like that thing. I'm not saying
Mhm.
do something totally outlandish and doesn't fit the character, but taking a risk when you audition
Mhm.
is more important than even whether you landed it or not. But don't, just
Yeah.
go for it. And what do you have to lose? And you're just going to gain more experience. And the reality is, you probably aren't going to get it. It's just you probably aren't,
Yeah.
and until one day you do, and amazing,
Right,
But
right.
it's just
Exactly.
it's practice. You're going to practice.
It's exactly. Well, and I'm sure that I'm guessing that there are actors from this process that you didn't cast but are now on your radar.
Absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
sometimes what I think gets lost in the disappointment of not getting a role is that it doesn't mean your work was in vain.
Mhm,
You never know.
mm-mm,
And I talk about this all the time. Dallas Jenkins is really great about this. Gary Wheeler, another producer I work with, is great about this. Even Alan Powell is great about like remembering people. And then when a new project comes up and they're right, it's like, there's this guy and I saw him, or this
mm,
girl and I read her, and,
mhm,
let's bring her in again. So it's not, the effort is not in vain. Not only was it a good experience for the actors to go through the exercise of it, but it's great for us to see good work. Good
mhm,
work,
mhm,
right? Stands out at
mhm.
the end of the day.
100%.
Um, if there was, so when, let's talk about that a minute, just because I know it will be helpful to the actors. When you say do something different,
Mm,
I've had actors ask me a lot. They get confused by that, and I try to explain, like, it's not, you're not doing something different for the sake of being different, but I sometimes think like you're just giving it a deeper thought or more layers, or you're taking a different angle into the scene. Like, how would you describe that as far as eh, um, being different in a good way?
well, you know, I'm trying to think of an example from the movie. Okay, there's a scene in the movie. If those of you who haven't seen it, this will give you an excuse to go see it on
Yes.
Netflix streaming.
There
Uh,
you go.
yeah, the shameless plug. But there's a scene with a census taker who shows up in Mary and Joseph's house and say you have to go to Bethlehem to be counted. And I saw a bunch of actors for this, and these are not big roles. This is one. He has one scene,
Yeah.
and that guy made an impact. Like everybody's gonna remember that guy because
Yeah.
of his choices. And
Right.
it was like I love when an actor um, isn't small because it's a small role. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like it's funny. I heard an anecdote of Glenn Powell passed on Top Gun because he didn't get the role that he wanted, and it was a lesser role. And Tom Cruise, who I worked with, and it's the most Tom Cruise thing ever, sat him down for lunch, and he goes, "You don't pick roles, you pick movies, and
Mhm.
you need to be in this movie." And sure enough, now Glenn Powell is the biggest star that's come out of that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
this guy showed up, and I will hire him in a heartbeat for anything
Mm.
because what he brought to that small one scene, he had
Yeah.
4 lines,
Yeah.
and he was just so creepy and nasty, and it was just such an interesting choice. Everybody else is just like a normal Roman census taker. They just walked in and moved
Mhm.
out proper and did a thing, and he walks in and he's like looking at her with these like nasty look, like disdain, and it was
Mhm.
just like so interesting. And I'm like, that guy, I want that guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so it was in the context of the scene, of the period, like, he wasn't all of a sudden going into, like, a Dean Martin, Jerry
no,
Lewis
it was totally
movie and
appropriate, but it was
exactly.
nasty. You hated that guy,
Yeah,
and I wanna hate the guy that tells them they need to go be counted when she's about to give birth and has to travel for 7 days across the desert. That guy
right,
sucks, you know?
right.
And he really understood what a nasty person
Yes.
that was. Um,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, you don't act the words, you act the subtext, you know?
Yes,
Um,
thank
and
you.
it's like, I don't direct
Yep,
the words, I don't care what you're saying. I
right.
care what's the meaning, like, you can say, "How are you?" and it can mean 10 different things, you know?
Absolutely.
So we direct the subtext. I can't direct
Yep,
words. They don't
yep.
change, you know? So you
Yeah,
have
and
to understand
and that guy created a backstory for the census taker
them.
and gave it dimension and depth and humanity,
Mhm.
flawed
Yeah.
humanity. And oftentimes it sometimes I kind of am describing, and the casting process where 8 hours you're watching hundreds and hundreds of the same exact scenes
Mhm.
back to back to back to back.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that like, yeah, it was fine,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
don't ever want it to be like, "Oh, it was fine,"
It
which
was good.
kind of equates to,
No,
"Well,
but he
it
brought
was
a
fine, it
dimension
was okay."
and fear and I mean, he just brought something that everybody else could then react to, and it made it for a really interesting scene that could be really boring, you know?
Mhm,
And the
mhm,
other thing you find, uh, the guy who played Mary's father, um,
mm,
he didn't audition for Mary's father, but I flipped him to
yeah,
that role because of the choices he made for a different part, and I go, "You're
yes,
exactly what I'm looking for, but not for this role."
yes,
That
yes,
happens too. So you never know if you make a bold choice what's gonna happen, and
mhm,
I'd always wanted this kinda Tevye, Sala kinda character, this lovable
yeah,
guy, even though
yeah,
he's lovable, he does some things to Mary that are not okay, but you still
mhm,
kinda love him because he couldn't have brought forth this amazing woman had he not been a good guy, in my
right,
opinion. And he just needed to be that lovable, and he just was, but that's not the role he was
mhm,
tried out for. Same with Elizabeth. She came for some way smaller role. I'm like, "She's amazing. I'm moving her up." You just don't know.
wow,
You just go
yeah.
do it, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly, and treat all of it as if it was the lead, as far as, like, the backstory, the depth,
Absolutely.
the context, because that's what we're looking for.
Mhm,
Actors ask me all the time, "Well, how do you stand out in an audition?" It's like, you do the work. You treat it like it's a lead role, and you give it depth and richness, and
mm,
you find a way of connection so that it's grounded in something real,
mm.
and you just go for it, and make those choices. So,
It's
I
a fine
love
line
that.
too. It's a fine line though, because also don't bring attention to yourself if it's not warranted. You
Mhm,
have to understand the scene too. So
mhm.
it's not just to do some crazy to stand out because
No,
that'll get you thrown out of there too. So
exactly.
it
Yep.
has to be grounded in the
Mhm.
context of the scene and the story. But yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to make bold choices.
Yeah.
You never know. Even if it's completely the wrong choice, it might, like it did for me. I'm like, yeah, that's totally wrong for him, but man, that's good for this character.
Right, right. Because what you're responding to is the core performance. This is a person who is connected, who is grounded, who's found a way to bring reality and life and depth to this character, and those qualities are fantastic,
Mm,
whether they're right for that role or another role or something down the road for you,
mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm,
That is the kind of stuff that stands out.
mhm.
I'm noticing a couple people have questions for you.
Nice.
So, let's see. Bianca says, Adam, I relate to the international upbringing. Do you feel that experience helped you? And if so, how?
Absolutely. I had a European Union passport for Spain. That helped. That helped our tax
You're
incentive.
such a producer. You're like practical.
That was fantastic. I definitely went to Spain under my Swedish pseudonym. Um, but I think absolutely it gives you a little different perspective on things. Specifically to this, I think the more we know about the world, the more we know about humanity, the
Mm,
more just, another anecdote, not to name drop, but we already name dropped Meryl Streep, but she said something
And
to my
Tom
son.
Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. I'll keep going all night. Uh, but she said something because my son, she knew my son wanted to be an actor, and I'm trying everything to stop that. But having seen all the casting sessions as a father, I'm like, no, I can't. But she said, don't learn how to act, learn everything else.
Yes.
And I thought that was an
Yes.
amazing, amazing statement. And I think
Yeah.
being from another country, having seen the world, traveled the world with my parents,
Mhm.
having seen um, despair, having seen people with nothing, people with everything, I think the
Mhm.
more worldly we are, and I don't mean that by, you know, in a bad sense, I mean just the more
Right.
we see the world and the more we notice humanity and other humans, the better we are in our art. Because all my characters, everything I write, everything I direct, um, it comes from an experience I've had or
Mm.
someone I've met. I'm
Mhm.
channeling something or someone at all times. So I think absolutely being raised the way I was and seeing everything
Mhm.
I've seen at a very young age absolutely informs my creativity.
Yeah, and in this case, in the case of Journey, of course, um, it's a universal story for
Hmm.
any language, any age, any socioeconomic,
Hmm.
so yeah, to be able to have that reference and not just purely an American
Hmm.
POV, but a more international, um, it seems like it would have helped you to make a story that resonates beyond just the boundaries of, the US.
Yeah.
Allie Gibbs says, "Hi there, Adam. I really love your work. What did you learn from creating Journey to Bethlehem that you want to apply to your future projects?"
Wow. Well, I think, like I said, that this is what I want to do because it was my
Mhm.
first, theatrical debut as a director, and it was a big risk because Hollywood likes to pigeonhole people. And
Mm.
once they announced that I was a director on a movie in Deadline, my phone stops ringing for my day job. It's just the way it is. Like, oh well, he's not available anymore. He's moved on. So, and I knew
Right.
that would happen, and it was a big
Yeah.
risk. But I learned that I absolutely love making movies.
Oh, that's
I,
awesome.
I learned that it's the hardest job there is, uh, but you better love it, to be able to do it.
Mhm.
And I,
Yep.
I think anybody who doesn't just absolutely to your bones love making movies, you should find something else to do because it's that hard. It can be
Yep,
that
yep.
discouraging. Um, and uh, and I think on a personal note, probably the main thing I learned was I'm not going to leave my family next time. And I know that's probably
Mhm.
not really applicable to anyone listening, maybe, or at least not Allie who asked the question. But I had left my family for 6 months to make this movie, and that
Mm.
was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Because I have two boys at home that really
Yeah.
suffered because I was gone. So we sacrificed a lot as a
Yeah.
family. It was a family decision, but I made the wrong decision. Frankly, if I look back, I should
Mm.
have brought them all with me, and I will next time.
Yeah.
And now they're homeschooled, and they're coming with me to my next movie. So that was a big thing
Yeah.
for me to learn, and we weren't sure what was best. Um,
Mhm.
but those are things, every experience you got to learn from the good and the bad, and
Yeah.
move on. Don't wallow
Yeah.
in it. And um, but yeah, movies are very hard to make. It's really a miracle if you can sell one, get it made, and then have it come out, and then it's an absolute miracle if it's good. It
Yeah.
really is because there's so many reasons for it not to be. Because
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
variables, so many people with power trying to ruin your movie, and then movies just don't want to get it made to begin with. They just
Yeah.
don't. So I learned to appreciate every second when I'm on the set next time. I'm going to I can't wait to get back on set.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think your insight about what you learned about having your family with you, I actually think is very helpful. I know there's a lot of actors who, they start the journey when they're single and then they find themselves married and with young kids, and life's different then, right? The time with your kids, and those are decisions that I think any of the creatives in a world like this where you're called away to go somewhere else to do your job, you do have to weigh that, and those values and those decisions change over time because you're family needs change. So I appreciate the candor that you share that with, because I'm sure there are actors who can absolutely relate to that, and having to make those difficult decisions. Do I go and be gone for 4 weeks on a movie set when I
Hmm.
have little kids? So I
Yeah, and
appreciate you talking about that.
there's a reason there's a lot of broken families in Hollywood, you know, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the reality is the work usually comes first, and
Yeah.
it's tough.
Um, Diego has a question for you. How has social media helped and or hurt Journey to Bethlehem?
Oh boy. Uh, Oof, man, that's a can of worms.
It
Social
is.
media was not my friend on Journey to Bethlehem. There was a lot of controversy around it. Oddly, that was caused by one post from one person who only had like 100 followers, and somehow her post, she was one of the very few people that saw a pre-screening of the movie,
Mm,
and she had major issues with it, and she kind of attacked me in a post.
mm.
But she meant it for her 100 followers, and it went viral, and 3 million people shared it as if they'd seen the
Oh
movie,
my
and that they said, she said some pretty rough things. And so 3 million people who had not seen the movie, because it wasn't even out yet for another 2 weeks, already had shared on social media, don't go see the movie, don't bring your kids, it's blasphemous, it's this, and that. It's none of those things, which we can get into or not, but
Right,
uh,
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely none of those things. And I think there was a lot of assumptions because of my resume, that I'm not a Christian and that I was taking the story and ruining it. But the fact of the matter is, uh, this was in my, I feel was really a gift from God. He gave me this
Yeah.
gift. And
Yeah.
to attack me and my family the way they did, it was really ugly. And it just got out of control, and it was millions of people who haven't seen the movie yet jumping on the bandwagon,
Yeah.
and it was crazy. Like, I couldn't believe it was happening. It was like an out of body experience, because the movie wasn't even out yet. I'm like, I'm okay if it comes out and everybody sees it and goes, "This is horrible." I'm not okay with you saying it's horrible before you've seen it.
Right.
That's
Right.
and that's
Exactly.
the scary world we live in with social media, with the mob
Mhm.
mentality we have, and
Yeah.
it's just so weird that a post with somebody with so few followers that it got that much traction. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if there was someone behind it, boosting it, paying. I don't know, because I have
Right.
thousands of followers on Facebook, and I've never gotten anywhere close to that kind of virality on any post I've ever made.
Right.
So it was
Right.
really, really damaging. We were supposed to open at 21 million, and we opened at 2, because of that. And we had 1% of our audience was kids, and it's a movie for kids. So it crushed us at the box
Wow.
office. But the good news I can report is it, it turned, and people started fighting back who saw it. The Rotten Tomatoes
Yes.
was through the roof. People loved
Yes.
the movie. They're like, this isn't true. And then people started fighting back slowly, and it stayed in theaters, even though it shouldn't have with that opening. It should have been
Yeah.
pulled. But theater owners were saying, I'm not pulling the movie because everybody leaving loves the movie. So
Right.
when you have a movie that opens that low, you're not there next week, especially not in the
Yeah.
holidays.
Oh,
So we
no.
stayed all the
No.
way to New Year's. It was crazy.
Right.
And then we went to home video right away. Then it took off with home video, and then Netflix bought it. Now Disney bought it. It's the first faith movie that Disney has ever bought. Um,
See, I love that full circle understanding, because what others meant for evil, God, you know, means for good. Like
yeah,
you now have, someone said you can't have a testimony without the test, right? You
yeah.
you you
Oh, I had
gotta.
that. It was a dark time. That was a hard time when you
I
put
know,
too much
I was
into
gonna
something.
say, being friends with Alan, I experienced a little of that through his lens, and
Hmm.
um, I this you don't have to address this, but I've said often that I feel like within the faith community, we are so hard on each other. Now, granted, I don't want us to be so lower our standards so much that it's like, oh, it's for God. Okay, it's fine if it's not done well, or if it's not professional, if it's not quality, or if the script's not good. Like, I don't mean that we just ordain everything that has a, a God's story to it. But I feel like the as a community, we can get so black and white about our particular aspect of how we view Christianity, or whether we're, you know, Presbyterian or Lutheran or, whatever part of that we bring to the table, that we miss the bigger picture of this movie had the potential to reach millions
Mhm.
with the most important story and to reach a generation that is very difficult to reach.
Absolutely.
That and
So I think what they
so
missed, yeah,
to
what they missed is I didn't make it for the church. I made it to reach everyone
Yeah.
else. And I think as Christians, we always say, "Oh, yeah, we made this Christian movie and it's to reach the lost." And we're like, "Share this movie and, bring your friends, because we're going to reach the lost." But you know full well that nobody who's not already Christian is going to watch that movie. Like no
Mhm,
chance. They won't be caught dead in a
mhm.
theater watching that movie, right? That's the most
Yeah,
content we create as Christians. And I'm not called to do that. I'm not doing it.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
making the nativity story in a way to reach people who don't know what Christmas is about. That was my
yeah,
intent, right?
yeah, yep,
And I had to frame it in a way that would capture them and keep
mhm,
them engaged,
yep,
so they could hear the message, and to point them
yeah,
to scriptures, not to replace them. It's a break
yep.
in the song musical. I'm pretty sure it's not biblically accurate if they're singing and dancing pop music. I mean, come on, guys. Um, and then they're like, "Oh, it's not biblically accurate." I'm like, "Well, then Joseph needs to be 60 and marry 12." I don't
Yeah, do
think we
you
want to
wanna
watch
see
that either.
that?
So there's but
Right,
it's really a disturbing trend where we eat our own. That's really what
yeah,
we love to do, and we don't just do it; we do it with glee. And we
mhm,
need to stop. And I saw there's a big pastor, one of the biggest in the country, who I saw they're like doing a hit piece on him, and they're going to come out, and it's some Christians that have gone after him, a 7-part series, which by the way they're doing to make money. Don't be
mhm,
fooled. Now they're not doing it as some kind of ministry; they're doing it to get clicks. So they're
yeah,
going after him, and everybody's jumping on board. Yeah, get him! I can't wait to see this and take him down or whatever. Wait, why are you taking delight in taking
right,
down a fellow believer? Whether you agree
right,
with his theology or not is irrelevant. He's a brother in
mhm,
Christ. Like, stop
yeah,
it already. Like, what are
yeah,
we doing? There's a reason we
right,
have denominations because we can all read the same passage of scripture and think 7 different things, right? And glean
right,
completely different things
right,
from that passage. And God knows that. There is no
yeah,
one denomination for all of us until we get to heaven. That's just the
right,
reality. So get
exactly,
over it, and just stop already and stop attacking your own and instead be quick to lift each other up. But we're fast to destroy, and it's a major problem that we got to
yeah,
really work on. And I feel like, this gave me thick skin. I'm ready for the
mm,
next one. And
yeah,
here's the amazing part of it. And I don't want to be doom and gloom. It was obviously extremely painful to see Christians attacking me, my family. They went after my kids. They told my kids I'm working for the devil. I mean, it was insane. I'm like, come on.
mhm,
Um, but here's the amazing thing is I made this movie for the mainstream audience.
yeah,
Because of the struggles we had in the box office early, Sony Entertainment jumped in early and put it on streaming and home video a month earlier than they were supposed to, which ended up being
mm,
December 8th instead of January 8th. And then it
mhm,
went viral. So what happened was it got in front of the audience I made it for before Christmas. So if you
yeah,
zoom out, right, and then you take our idea of success out of it for a minute, God's up there
yes.
going, "What are you crying about? You made it for these people. I got it in front of them."
I got it to yeah,
It
it
went
was a little, jagged road to get there,
Yeah.
but
So our idea of success is very different than God.
yeah,
And that was a really huge lesson for me. So going back to Ali's question, you've uncovered probably the biggest thing I took away from this is my idea of success needs to be put away. I need to
yeah,
make what I'm, supposed to make and then let go of it. And then it's going to take care of itself. And it has. It's
yeah.
completely turned around. We went viral this summer with 1 billion streams on TikTok in the summer on a Christmas movie. So,
I love that. I absolutely love that. And you're right. We make our plans and we do what we think we're supposed to do, but ultimately there's a much bigger plan in all of
mhm,
it.
yeah.
So tell me before I move on to a different topic. So Journey is streaming right now on Netflix, right?
Journey is on Netflix this whole season. Let's make it go top 10, people. Come on. I'd love to
Yes,
see
there
that.
you go.
The soundtrack is out everywhere, on Capitol, doing great. Tell your friends, do watch parties, whatever. And then it moves to Disney Plus next year, which is really exciting.
That's
Like I
really
said, they
exciting.
don't do faith stuff, and they bought this movie, which is pretty incredible.
I
Which
love
proves
it.
my point. I made it for everyone, and they're going, "This is a Disney movie. We want it on our platform."
I
even though
love
it's talking
that.
about the birth of Christ. That's pretty freaking cool.
Well, and I think of, like, Joel Smallbone. Honestly, it's my favorite. Well, I shouldn't say that because I did Unsung Hero with him, and I thought he was
Tread
wonderful
lightly.
in that movie. But, I mean, I it Unsung Hero, he was playing a character, that is very close to his heart because he was playing his father. But,
Yeah.
um, I thought his performance in your film was so compelling and
Mhm.
such a good marriage of, uh who For King and Country is, who
Mhm.
he is as an artist, and then still creating this very compelling, complex
Mhm.
character in the relationship between him and Antonio Banderas.
He's
Yeah,
a
I just
great,
thought you did
great,
a
great.
beautiful
Yeah.
job.
He's amazing talent. He really is. An amazing guy too. By the way, they say don't meet your heroes. If he's your hero, you'll be fine meeting him. He's a really great guy, immensely talented. But the juxtaposition of him versus Antonio was everything I could have hoped for in
Mhm.
casting. And by the way, Antonio was incredible, and uh, he made the what I wrote, the character I wrote. I couldn't ever dreamt that somebody would bring that alive the way he did. It was exactly
Yeah.
what I had in my mind, but even better.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal, and then seeing him, and then that tension with Joel was just so good. Um,
Yes.
and what it did was it created a rhythm in Joel. I think that was unexpected. Part of it was I probably shouldn't say this, but he would forget his lines a little bit, Joel.
Mhm.
But we ended up using that because it created this kind of erratic rhythm to his delivery. He started
Interesting.
using that, and it became part of the character. And it was really, really cool. I loved it. I kept all those takes in the editing room because there were other
Wow.
takes that were just where you completely knew the lines and they flowed. But I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I like the wonky one. I like the one where he
That's a nice little happy accident. That's
I
cool.
don't know if he likes that. Sorry, Joel. But by the way, he came in so late. We were already shooting when we cast him. We'd been shooting for weeks,
Wow.
so he was behind the 8 ball, but it ended up working I think to our benefit.
Yeah.
And he came off of Unsung, so he's really in the flow of acting, so he was really on. Uh,
Yes.
and man, did he! I mean, to be put next to Antonio Banderas, right? That's the big leagues, right? And
Yep.
he did not shy away from it. He was right there in every scene. And I told him, I remember when I offered to him, like, okay, how would you like for every one of your scenes, your scene partner to be Antonio Banderas? How's that sound? Uh, and it's pretty amazing because usually that exposes an actor, right? You put an actor
Mhm.
next to an Oscar winner, somebody incredible,
Mhm.
you expose how not good the one next to them is,
Yep.
right? But that just shows you how good Joel is because he leveled up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah, rose to the challenge.
mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm,
Well, I would encourage all of you guys to see the movie, and if you haven't seen it or for whatever reason you thought, I'm not sure if I wanna see it," I want you to watch it and
mhm.
make
And then tell me
decisions
you
for
hate it.
yourself.
Yeah, and then tell me
But
it's
you
fine.
won't,
Yeah.
because there's great performances, wonderful music, and of
96%
course.
Rotten Tomatoes from the audience, so
There you
um,
go, and
so much
instead
for
of
that.
watching it in the summer, you can actually watch it during Christmas
Yeah,
time. What a concept.
yeah. Oh,
There
look
you
at
go,
that.
Netflix. So I wanna talk, if you don't mind, just a little bit about
Mhm,
this new endeavor you're doing, Encircled, music,
mhm,
or kind of your it's a new little kind of outreach that you're doing,
mhm.
or new little media venture that you're doing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Encircled Music, it's a really new thing, and this was I was in Sweden visiting my parents in September, and I met up with my producing partner forever on Glee and everything I've ever done is a guy named Per Astrom, and he's in Sweden, and we met up, and he founded a company called Epidemic Sound, which is
Mm,
probably the biggest digital label in the world. Um,
okay.
and he and a couple other Swedes who are extremely successful in the mood music space had an
Mm,
idea that they wanted to present with me because to me, and it was to make a mood music label, but have it be faith-based and have it be
mm,
Christians making mood music, because so much mood music, whether it's spa sounds or tranquil or peace or spa this or that, whatever, it's not made from a faith perspective.
Right.
It's usually, or if it is faith, it's maybe Buddhist or it's Zen or it's New
Mhm.
Age or some other faith. And there
Yeah.
was a real need, I think, for the billions of Christians around the world to have their version of that, because it's the biggest genre in streaming music is mood music. Taylor
Wow.
Swift gets 90 million streams a month. Mood, the biggest mood artist, gets a billion. So it's a pretty big
Wow.
disparity. Yeah. So yes,
Wow.
we created Encircle, but then as we were developing it, I thought, well, you know what? I think we can take this to another level. And because I saw what Hallow was doing, the app, pray.com,
Mm,
different things where there's guided prayers and devotions and uplifting
yeah.
messages and things set to music. But I felt like we could do better. No offense to them. I
Yeah.
think they're doing a great thing. And we could do it without having to download an app for $10. Uh,
Mm.
so that's what
Wow.
we've done. And we've invited a bunch of people in, including yourself, to do some devotions, inspirational thoughts, whatever it is, in bite size, set to our music. And then we release that on all platforms for people to be able to listen to and be encouraged in whatever they're doing, driving to work, sitting in a sauna, doing yoga, whatever you're doing, be
Yeah.
encouraged and set in the right frame of mind. Um, and it's all made by Christian creators.
I love that. So how can people find that, and share that now?
Well, it's so new. We're literally coming out this Friday. We're launching all
Oh,
platforms, but we're on Instagram already. So you can go
okay.
to Circled Music Instagram, and it's encircled with a D at the end. And you'll find where we're posting right now, and then that'll point you later to Spotify and Amazon, Pandora, anywhere you listen to music. We will be with our music, and even with your really awesome content that you created for us that we're very grateful for.
Well, I love what you're doing. I as a someone who's been a, singer, worship person my whole life,
Hmm.
anytime there's a marriage of multiple parts of what speaks to my soul, man, I'm all in. I just love that idea, and I love that your unique gifting in both the music side of things, but now the storyteller and creative visual storyteller coming together, I think is just so rich.
Hmm.
And I'm super excited for the stories that you're going to tell.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, not that you have to tell us about anything that you're working on, because super secret, but
Hmm.
do you have some things coming up you're excited about? Some things brewing?
I do. I have several.
Oh,
I
good.
do. I have sold my next movie. It is with
Oh,
Lionsgate. I have just finished the first draft of the script.
oh,
It's
that's
terrific, excited to
awesome.
turn in. It is a thriller. I'm not doing a musical this time. Um, and it's based on a huge IP on a book that many people will know. I can't announce it yet. I'll have to come back
Nope,
and announce it in January. But look
please.
for it on my Instagram or wherever. I'll be announcing it pretty soon, and it'll be in the trades. Um, we need more Adam Manders content on social media.
There you go.
He's relentless, man. But yeah, so hopefully in January I can announce it. But I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a big movie, bigger budget movie because of the content and the story itself. But super exciting. And
So
then I'm going to
tell
do a musical
me,
after that again.
yeah, that's awesome. So tell me, as a filmmaker, like you said, the kinds of stories you want to tell and the audience you want to tell them to, but you're coming at it from a perspective as a man of faith and a Christian. So yeah, obviously that colors everything we do, whether whatever we're doing, whether you're targeting a faith audience or a secular audience. I love the Kendrick brothers. I think it was Alex Kendrick at a conference I was at, and I had a lot of respect for this because they're probably two of the most conservative
Mm,
filmmakers in the faith space.
yeah.
And they're very clear, just like you said. We make movies for the choir, we make movies for the
Yep.
church. That's what we feel
Sure.
called to do. And they're going to do that to the best of their ability, but they were embracing and mentioning those filmmakers who are called to different areas like you know, a different audience. We need to cover them all, right? We
100%.
need to reach them all. So, as you look ahead, you said you just sold your script to Lionsgate and Sony put out Journey to Bethlehem. How do you see the future of these sort of faith um colored type stories being embraced? I mean, the fact that Disney's doing that is incredible.
Well, I don't like the faith label.
Right. Okay.
Personally, because as soon as you put that label on it, you lose most of the audience you're trying to reach.
Okay.
We need to stop doing that and just make good movies.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
respect that.
so, if I'm honest,
Yeah.
I will never go see a faith-based movie as a consumer. That's not
Okay.
because, again, it's usually for the choir. I'm already Christian.
Unless you're invited to the premiere, in which case you
You
have to
go,
because you're
of
there.
course, because they're my friends. And it's not no knock on those movies because, like you just said, the Kendrick
Yeah.
brothers do really well what they do, which is a different thing than what I do. But
Absolutely.
you know, I
Absolutely.
think there are more Christians who don't go to faith movies than there are who do. There's more of
Alan Powell is
I
chiming in
know
and saying,
Alan.
"Love you both." We
Alan's
love
my
you,
guy.
Alan.
I do love that man. He's a
Yeah.
really good man.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you other
No,
than how can you ignore Alan
no, I
Powell? I
think
mean,
look, Alan has the same vision as I do, and that's
he
why we
does.
work so well together making this
Yep.
movie. That the reality is we will reach more people if we just make great movies and
Mhm.
put them out there like everybody else does, and
Mhm.
then they feel there's just something different. There's a message embedded in that story,
Mhm.
versus we made a faith movie. Come support at churches. You've now
Mhm.
alienated everybody you're trying to reach, and it's just not my calling. The Kendrick brothers
Yeah.
are brilliant at what they do, but
Right.
they're trying to preach to the choir literally,
Right.
and they do a really good job. And I went to the Forge, and it's a really great message about discipleship and
Right.
raising up young men, and that we need to give back, and we need that. We need to raise up strong Christian young men. That's an
Mhm.
amazing message. But if you're not a Christian, you're not going to relate to it,
Right.
right? So
Right.
my mission is just to tell stories that lift people up.
Mhm.
That my North Star is my faith, always in my storytelling. But
Of
that doesn't mean
course.
I'm always going to make Christian movies. There
Right.
are amazing inspirational stories. My main goal is to counterbalance the darkness in the world with light.
Absolutely.
My company's called Nightlight for a reason, because
Mm. I
light
love
shines
that.
in the darkness, and we don't need more dark content. We really
Right.
don't.
Right.
Everybody's trying to out dark each other. I feel called to make content that when you finish watching my movie or TV shows, you're going to feel better. You're going to have
Mhm.
hope. You're going
Mhm.
to, yeah, it's just not feel worse. I don't need help feeling bad. I can handle that pretty well myself. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really
We
good at that.
can do that okay on our own.
Yeah. So yeah,
It
I think we need to stop with this. The faith label really, as soon as you slap that on, you kind of negate what you're trying to do with it. So put it
yeah, I and
like buzz me every time I say the faith word. I think that's a good start.
well, and I again recognizing that God's called each filmmaker to a different their own path to
Hmm.
tell the stories that are unique and make sense to them. And I think the bottom line, everyone says, the Kendricks say it, you say it, the Irwins, just make them good.
Just make
Just
good
make
movies.
good quality content, and it will find an audience, whether that audience is meant to be the church, the choir, or whether it's
Hmm.
a broader audience. Just make it good,
That's right.
and that's it.
We're seeing on Journey, when it went viral on TikTok, there were countless messages of people saying, "I'm an atheist. This movie changed me."
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
well, I wouldn't have reached them if I'd made it maybe the way that the critics wanted me to make it, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I just need to go with my calling.
yeah.
And
That's
it's funny,
exactly right.
I was struggling with some of these things. What's funny is I got criticized for not being biblically accurate, but every nativity scene in every church is not biblically accurate. The wise men were not there when Jesus was born, yet they're in every nativity scene, and yet I'm the villain.
Right.
So it was funny because I was struggling with the wise men, and I'm going, well, this isn't really biblically accurate. They showed up 3 years after he was born, and I was struggling with this. And I was having dinner with Chris McQuarrie, and if you might know who Chris McQuarrie is, he writes and directs all Tom Cruise's movies. There's Tom Cruise again, name
Yes,
drop.
there you go.
Uh, but he did all the new Mission Impossible movies. He's an Oscar-winning writer for Usual Suspects. He's really the smartest guy I've ever
Absolutely.
met. And he just stopped me and said, "Dude, nobody's going to remember your movie if it's biblically accurate. They're going to remember it if it's good. They're going to
Mm.
remember it and go see it and be changed and impacted by it if it's really good. Just make a
Right.
great movie.
Right.
Like if
Right.
it's a terrible movie but accurate, what does that matter?" So it really freed me up to just follow my
That's called
vision.
a documentary.
Exactly. I did not make a documentary, but I made a movie that is true to the message
Yeah.
of the gospel and the Bible, and points you to that story.
And you made
So
the movie that you were called to make,
that's right.
and, that's exactly what we need to be doing, and I wanna encourage the actors who are with us is they have to make some of those same decisions as far as the kind of content they'll perform in,
Yeah.
and whether they're gonna decide, "I only wanna do this kind of content," or, "I'm open to anything as long as it doesn't cross a certain line." I always encourage actors, like, set boundaries, but we have to counter darkness, whether it's our presence within the industry, the way that we work, the way that we treat people. That is a way of countering the darkness when we treat
Mhm.
people with kindness and grace and love, and we work really hard, and we are good at our jobs.
Mhm.
That's a way of being light. And actors, you don't necessarily have to make a hard line choice. I'm only going to do these kinds of films or content. I do encourage you to set boundaries, because we don't want to perpetuate the darkness in the world, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of ways to bring light
And the
to
reality
the
is,
end.
if you're being honest and authentic about characters, they're not all going to be sanitized. And I think that's one of the things that drives me crazy when we sanitize movies, so they'll
Yeah.
fit into this little sandbox that we've created. This is where all of the movies need to be, and all our roles need to be if we're people of faith. I'm like, that's just not accurate, because the world is not sanitized. The world is not
Hmm.
perfect. We're fallen. We have issues. Guess what? We use some bad language sometimes when we get upset,
Yeah.
and when we're
Yeah.
hurt, deeply wounded.
Yeah.
And when we sanitize all that out of our characters, all of a sudden it doesn't ring true, and it's not authentic, and it doesn't move
Hmm.
people the way it should.
Hmm.
So if you don't show the ugly, you can't redeem anything in your storytelling.
Hmm. Right.
So we have to be honest and authentic in what we do, from acting to writing to directing to all of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And it seems even more so the generations coming up are craving authenticity. Like,
Hmm.
they can spot it and reject it, when they feel like it's contrived, or they're being manipulated, or, being a being told an untruth.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just getting back to that core. Well,
Yeah.
I it has been such a joy to talk with you. There were probably questions I didn't
Oh
get
yeah.
to because we were busy chatting, but a lot of people are saying, "I'm gonna go watch it, can't wait to watch it." And then gonna look up Encircled Music. And so you have a lot of fans out there who'll be following along. And so I'm thrilled to have even just a few minutes to just chat with you.
Oh,
And
it's really fun.
just really I fan of your work, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing and telling the stories, because you definitely have a place in this world. So yeah, more stories that counter darkness
Yep.
is always a good thing. So
It is, and yeah, I think we need more of that, and we need to prop each other up and encourage each other and whether it's Christian movies or not, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't
yes,
just watch faith movies. That's not at all the thing. But
right.
we just need to be known for what we love, and known for
Mhm.
helping each other and building each other up, not known for tearing down. I think that's a
Yep.
good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a wonderful encouragement as we end today. Again, thank you for everything. You guys go watch Journey to Bethlehem on Netflix, and then look for Encircled Music on Instagram, and then Friday all over the place.
Yeah, it's fun.
Right?
That's right. And go watch Beverly's episodes. She's awesome.
Awesome, awesome. What a joy. I really appreciate your time and
Thank you for having
for
me.
being with us.
Awesome.
And it's good to see you guys all. Thanks for joining us for Tuesday. And we're back. And just love seeing all of our community, our Let's Talk Tuesday family popping up in the comments, and just love and appreciate you guys. And thank you so much for your kindness and kind words and prayers and encouragement with the recent wedding and all of that. You honestly, you really encouraged me, and really, it just brought so much joy to, even though distant, to be able to celebrate that kind of life milestone with you, and know you guys were cheering us on. So great to see you. We'll see you next Tuesday. And until then, have a wonderful week and go fight some darkness one way or another. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.
Okay, let's go.